Welcome back to the channel, guys. I've got a very special guest, Miles Deutscher. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm great, bro. Excited to dig into the markets.
Excellent. Miles is an altcoin specialist in the entire crypto space and also a fantastic analyst. I follow a lot of his content when it comes to altcoins. So we're going to go through today looking at altcoins in general. We're going to look at the macro space when it comes to altcoins, Miles's theory here. And then I'm going to put him to the test and dive into 5 of his top altcoins and look at whether they are leaders or laggers based on my own theory, the altcoin versus the Bitcoin pairing chart. Get your cups of tea, coffee, whatever you're drinking. Miles's details will be in the video description. Mate, let's kick it off with your theories and what you've got there on the charts.
Yeah, so my general theory with the altcoin market is quite simple. It's something you alluded to there with looking at Bitcoin data to correspond to altcoin strength. And it's basically that when you're positioning yourself in an altcoin / crypto bull run, you always want to lend towards the strength. So typically what we see cycle to cycle is you have 2 to 3 leading narratives in the market which are dominant throughout the cycle, and these tend to outperform. In 2021, it was the layer 1 trade. We also saw the layer 2 trade slightly later in the cycle. This cycle, however, there is a new crop of narratives and trends that are starting to emerge that are clear outperformers. And you can see in front of you, so far this year, over the last 3 months, it's been meme coins outperforming 141%. You have privacy coins up 68%, RWA coins up 60%, AI coins up 58%. If you scroll up and you look at the month-to-date performance, so going even more micro here, you can see AI has been the clear leader into many AI-specific catalysts that are coming in the real world, oracles, L2s, DPIN, etc., outperforming. So generally speaking, I don't agree with buying the tops of narratives. I don't think you should be buying a narrative after it's already run, but you should be looking in general to accumulate major pullbacks on narratives that are still showing an uptrend versus Bitcoin and against the rest of the market. And for that reason, when we get into my portfolio and my top picks later in this video, most of my portfolio is structured around the trends with mindshare. Crypto is an attention economy. The altcoin game trades on attention. Verticals like meme coins, RWA, AI, and I think at some point later in the cycle, even crypto gaming, we'll get into that. These are the narratives with the most attention flow. They're easy for retail to understand, which is a major proponent of success in crypto. Because when retail becomes interested in crypto, do you think they're going to buy a ZK L3 interoperability aggregator? Like, no, they're going to invest in shit that they find fun, that they understand, that they resonate with. And that's why so far this cycle, we have seen these specific narratives outperform. And that's why, if we do go, and we'll talk about this a bit later, into an extended altcoin rally at some point this year or early next year, these are probably the trends you're going to see outperforming. And the amazing thing is there are so many ways to position yourself here within each respective narrative.
Can I ask a couple of questions just with this? This is June Analytics. June Analytics? Yes. Correct?
Yeah.
If anyone's wanting to add this to their own toolbox when it comes to their trading and investing, further down you had the year to date, which we could get into a little later. Do you know how this is put together when it comes to the narrative itself? Like, what sort of objective data are they researching to put together what the narrative would be? Are they sort of skimming Twitter for most popular terms?
For each June Analytics dashboard, it's basically you have to plug in code and it's created by individual people. Here, there's an in-depth tutorial on how they've actually made it. So if you click on this video, they will go through how they actually made this, and this will give you the exact data. I believe what they've done is they've either aggregated other inputs from June, or they've taken, let's say, like the top 100. Usually it's the top 100 or top 150 from each respective narrative, and they're aggregating the data to get a trend. But obviously for the real savvy people that want like the exact data, you can go into the video and you can actually build your own code as well. If you're super tech orientated, ChatGPT can actually be a tool where you can do that yourself.
All right, cool. We've got a pretty good overview of the narratives at the moment. How about we go into some of the top narratives that you're seeing and why, and then we can get into specific altcoins of that narrative and then go deeper and figure out when to buy, when to sell, and your macro thesis on altcoins and altcoin season.
So as I mentioned before, you want to be going where the attention's flowing. And there are a few key verticals that I alluded to that I'm most focused on, but I want to break them down a little bit more in depth so you understand the drivers behind this attention, because attention doesn't flow for no reason. There needs to be catalyst or themes in the market which dictate, where people become interested in certain sectors. So starting on AI specifically, AI is very unique in the market because it has so many real life catalysts which contribute to the hype and the general attention flow into AI. What do I mean by that? Microsoft, Google, Apple, they're pouring billions, actually trillions, if you look at Sam Altman's pledge, of dollars into the AI space. And for that reason, you're seeing accelerated development in the space. And the more products that get developed, the more products that ship. When these products ship, because they're so transformative in how we live our daily lives, you'll notice that it causes a lot of stir on social media. Like if you were scrolling through Twitter when ChatGPT came out, the whole feed and YouTube was just ChatGPT videos and tweets because it was life-changing at the time. We hadn't seen a language model that powerful. AI is exponential because AI actually trains itself and AI models train themselves. So as you start seeing these models get better and better and better, the hype and attention in the mainstream media, on social media towards AI is going to be immense. And the unique thing about the AI sector compared to other sectors is because there's no definitive timeline on a catalyst, you can keep getting these news events and these hype events. NVIDIA earnings hypes the AI narrative. Apple has an AI summit, hypes the AI narrative. Google releases some new AI product, hypes the AI narrative. So it has more longevity, in my opinion, due to this very short cyclical nature compared to something like crypto gaming, which I still like for different reasons, but that might only run once or twice a cycle. AI, we've already seen 3 to 4 runs so far in the last 12 months, so there are many opportunities to profit. Now, digging deeper into the AI sector specifically, one thing becomes clear. A lot of the AI tokens aren't really AI. They're pseudo AI. They're slapping AI as a buzzword onto their website, and a lot of them are vaporware and garbage, especially if you start scrolling down the list and going into the sub $100 million category. But you have to make a decision in terms of your direction when you're investing, whether you're an altcoin trader or an altcoin investor. What do I mean by that? If you're an altcoin trader, it doesn't really matter if a coin is AI or pseudo AI, because if the market believes that it is AI, like it thinks Render's AI, Near's AI, FET's AI, AOS is AI, Agix is AI, Tau's AI, then you can still make money off the trade, even if theoretically none of these coins had anything to do with AI. It's about the market's perception that matters. If you're an altcoin investor, and what I mean by this is, you have a multi-year time frame, and you're really trying to pick like the genuine products that stick and get network effect, like you would with Solana back in 2020, then it's a different proposition altogether, and you've probably got to start looking really deep into the fundamentals. Personally, I do a mix of both. I love trading the AI coins around major news events, and I'm always looking for new AI technology that interests me. I can get into some of my top picks now for the ones that are interested. I think Render has been...
I think that was a... sorry to cut you off there, but I'm quite interested in that because as a trader, I can see what looks strong and what looks weak, just looking at probabilities. But when it comes to something longer term or trying to find a lower market cap AI coin, they all look the same because the charts all look the same. They're all basically flatlining next to nothing at super lows. So yeah, if you want to let us know your thoughts on top AI coins, and if you want to pick one or two at the other end, which might not look so good in the chart, but there might be some sort of fundamental reason, let us know.
Well, yeah, in terms of trading, like if you look at something like Render, so a lot of the AI coins have flatlined, but if you want an answer to what the market views as AI, because that's very important for attention, the coins that have run over the last few weeks when AI did outperform the market, these are the coins that are like clearly signaling to you, like during an AI season, these will probably outperform from a trading POV. Then obviously, the liquidity filters down. So Render actually performed really strongly. This is something I discussed on my show, I think around $8, that if we did see an AI season, Render would outperform. So that's up to 11. I think it even touched 12 at one point. Tau actually underperformed during this recent run, but I still like it. AOS is performing super strongly. This is one that I'm also invested in. If you look at the monthly, it's quite strong, and it did rebound during this latest rally from the dip. So that was a good sign, that 60 to 90 cent bounce.
I think I got that down one from you and checked the chart too. AOS. Yeah.
AOS, Render, like these are good ones. As you go down the list, it starts to get a little bit more dubious because the reality is this sector is very nascent, and a lot of the good tech isn't even in the market yet. Like, there's one that recently launched that I like. It's at a slightly higher valuation, but it's AI agents, and they're backed by Samsung, Franklin Templeton, like big backers. Is Spectral. It is at a slightly higher FTV, so that's something you have to take into account. There aren't unlocks for another few months from a trading perspective, but definitely look into the tokenomics before you invest in something. But this is an interesting concept, right? And this is an example of a newer AI project that's launching that is actually doing cool stuff in the market. I'm not even an investor in this. I just, on the liquid market, I'm interested in it. And I also recently met with the team to learn more, but I don't have a stake in it as of now. So that's one that's interesting. So I'm always on the lookout for the new stuff because there's a lot of trash here, especially as you can see, as you go down the list, it gets super low cappy, super risky, super like weird. So sticking to the leaders in the AI sector has been profitable because, as I said, during the latest run up, your renders have outperformed, your AOSs have outperformed. I mean, even Adjix and FET technically outperform some of the lower caps which lag. The other reason why the lower caps in AI have lagged despite a recent rebound across the larger caps is because the lower AI caps, they tend, and this is similar to the altcoin market in general, they tend to run towards the end of an AI cycle. So if you do see a big blow off top with AI, like we witnessed back in March, the lower caps only ran during that final 2 weeks, whereas Render went from $2 and ran up all the way to like $14 in the 6 months prior to that. It wasn't until the 2 weeks in March that we actually saw these small caps deciding to do 10x's. So
they were the laggers. The laggers always do that at the end.
100%.
Yeah, okay. So essentially what you're saying is with the lower caps, they are not necessarily real AI projects. The smart money essentially knows that, and they're sort of waiting for times to sell out, which is possibly why you're not seeing the same sort of pumps as you would with the real projects. And some of the projects like Render from memory, a lot of their tokens are already distributed on the market. So
Render's deepen, and this is the distinction that I want to make for people to understand. The Graph's actually an indexing protocol. Tau's a decentralized network, so that's AI network for machine learning. So it's closer to AI. FET and Adjix, they incorporate elements of AI. AOS is a AI and Deepin protocol and Web3 streaming. But the important distinction to understand with something like a Deepin project like Render, and there's upcoming ones which I'm invested in like Aethea, which I think are going to be strong. IONet's also coming too. Deepin is an interesting vertical because basically it's a decentralized private infrastructure network which has GPU power to facilitate AI applications. What do I mean by that? If you want to create an AI app or an agent, it's quite power intensive, GPU intensive. Due to the global shortage for GPUs, with the whole, NVIDIA shortage of GPUs skyrocketing, it's actually cheaper and more effective a lot of the time, especially as these protocols become more advanced, to leverage a decentralized GPU network than actually going out and sourcing those GPUs yourself, because you can rent the GPU power. And you can also crowdsource the power from individuals to contribute power to the network. So when we look at something like Render, it's actually a Deepin protocol, which means technically it can be used for any online power intensive application. People are viewing AI as that intensive application because AI requires a lot of power, but so does crypto gaming, and so do other use cases as well, like general software development, coding, etc., rendering, things like metaverses, games, graphics, anything that requires like a graphics card, you can utilize a Deepin network for. So it's important to make that distinction. But because Render has the Apple affiliation, it's clearly tied in there. I actually don't hold much Render spot. I'm more of a Render trader because I really like the price action on this, and I like how it typically leads the AI rallies. So that's why when I say I'm interested in AI from two different perspectives, you got to look at it through the lens of trading and investing. And it's actually similar to meme coins. So here's the thing with meme coins. Let's get into this now. Like,
hold on. All right,
sorry.
You're a wealth of knowledge, and sorry to the viewers that I keep cutting off Miles. He can talk a lot, and it's all good stuff. But I want to ask some questions, so hopefully you guys are also interested in the questions too. I'm sure you have plenty of them, and if you do, leave them down below, and obviously follow Miles on his channel. The links will be in the video description. Just on AI, before we jump to the next narrative,
it's relevant though because it trades similarly. That was the point I was going to make. But
it trades similarly to the meme coins.
I hold a few lower/mid cap AI tokens in my portfolio. So AOS, it's not really lower cap. It is around $1 billion, but it's still low compared to Render. ATOR, much more speculative AI deep in play, but I like the BD the team's been doing in terms of partnering with a lot of other AI protocols. They are a privacy network though. RSS3 is a infrastructure play, so it's actually a blockchain, but they have very advanced AI indexing similar to the graph, but specifically for AI. And I do like Tau probably as a longer cycle hold, just because it's the main leading machine learning network. There are others coming soon, which I'm invested in from an earlier stage, like Allura, but I don't think their token's going to hit for a few more months. So it's difficult for me to speculate on valuation. So there is a lot coming to the space. And then AR, although Arweave's technically deep in, it is highly tied to AI. So I like AR. And I also like Nia as an AI play because Ilya, the founder, he actually originally started out in AI. And Nia is actually incorporating a lot of those elements more so than other blockchains. So those are the ones. Nia, AR, Render to an extent, but I actually don't hold much. I mostly trade it. Tau, AOS on the slightly smaller cap side, ATOR, RSS3. These are the ones that I hold longer term. If you want a little bit of early alpha, at least, early for me,
Please.
There's this one called Pepe Coin. It's not the meme coin Pepe that you're thinking about. It's the OG Pepe. It's actually the OG Pepe. It was launched before the Pepe coin that you probably know about. It is half meme, but it's also half AI because there's a protocol called Based AI, which has an AI network, that Pepe coin is actually burnt based on the usage of the Based AI network. So it's actually an AI play, although it's under the guise of a meme coin. It's actually an AI play, and this is an interesting one that I think can perform well. That's why I did take a position, but it's not in my portfolio spreadsheet because this was made last week, and I just added that. But as you can see, I'm always looking for new, interesting AI plays. So none of this is set in stone. The most important thing to take away here is it's the narrative that you want to be aware of.
What would be the downside or the, say, invalidation in your mind where you would just say, it's not happening, I got to get out? For example, say Render, this thing has just been going up and up and up. Is there any sort of invalidation within your analysis that you would?
I use a lot of technical invalidation, similar to you. Like, I'm not an idiot.
Okay.
Like, I don't just invest. I learned a lot from, I started in 2019. So I invested in a bear market. I saw what can happen in a bear. And I also round tripped like not a lot, but a decent chunk of my profits in 2021. I guess it was a lot in nominal terms. So like, I know what it feels like to like be holding a bag, and I like refuse to do it again. So my trading style now is a little bit more rash than it used to be, and rash in a good way that, I'm willing to just cut positions if they start breaking major levels. I love the 200 MA on the daily. That's me, a momentum gauge. If you're above it, generally you're in an altcoin bull run. If you're below it, so for Render right now, this is $7. That's looking dubious. And you really got to consider your position at that point. So that's kind of how I'll play something like a Render. But if I was in a big spot bag, I would definitely look at these levels. This is actually higher lows, right? So the real last leg support, it can chop around here and do this, and that's still technically within a range. If you're within a range, I'll play the extremities of the range. So I'll like take profits close to the top of the range, and I'll buy back in below. But if you start breaking down and making lower lows, then the trend is essentially invalidated on a higher time frame. I like the daily. You can also use the weekly, but the weekly is very hard to trade off because, I can draw in the weekly levels, sure, but it's very hard to trade off, right? I can't really trade on this. Like, it's just up only. Whereas the daily gives me more of a bearing of like what the actual range is. And right now, Render is literally in this range where it's chopping sideways. This isn't my exact weighting. This was for the purpose of a video. In truth, I hold more altcoins than this, but I wouldn't recommend that for an average viewer that they hold 50, 60 altcoins. I literally spend 12 hours a day doing crypto. So I like manage shit. I'm like managing it all day. For the average person that doesn't have time, you're way better in the 15 to 20 altcoin range. But AI sits around 16%. Infra, which is L1s and blockchains.
I reckon we get into narratives in a future video. So if you guys do want to see more,
this was smash an AI up the likes. In the end.
Yeah, I definitely want to get you back on. We could talk forever, but I want to get into your macro.
Because we got to discuss, we got to get into meme coins, RWA, and gaming. You guys can tell I ramble because I have a channel. I'll do a shameless plug. I post this stuff every day on my channel. So and my videos are 30 minutes. So I'm used to just ranting for like 30 minutes non-stop as like a thought.
An hour. You got an hour down here. But we need to get into another video for your channel, where we dive into your fears of the end of the cycle and what we're going to do there. So we need to press on with time, guys.
In a bull run, I make more money than you because I'm a degen. In a bad market, you are definitely more rational and you probably are more protected than me. So you need some of my degeneracy, and I need some of your security. And if we can merge conservatism, if we can merge that, we're both going to kill it. Exactly. And if our audiences can also merge that balance. I'm just going to say something very quickly. Wow, the Pepe coin's actually in the meme.
That's not going to happen.
No, Pepe summary. Meme coins are similar to AI coins in the respect that in a major run, towards the end of the run, all the low caps print 50 to 100x, but you have to be very selective about when to go risk on or risk off. If you're in a meme coin season, dance while the music's playing, be a degen, be an idiot, capitalize off it, but ruthlessly take profits. Because if you're holding some of these lower cap meme coins, they do get wrecked on the downturns. Whereas if you're holding something like a Pepe and WIF, which is my strategy longer term for the cycle, I think they are going to continue to be decent spot holds because they're so established in terms of mind share. So when you're playing the bigger memes, you can treat them more like investments. They're still gambles, they're memes, they're risky. But then if you're playing the meme coin game, that you got to make a very concerted effort to time the game in a period where you're in meme coin mania, because averaging into low cap memes is not a great idea considering they're so cyclical in terms of their attention. That's my short.
Totally agree. And for example, the Trump, whatever the Trump coin is, there's Trump and Biden coin. They're probably going to get hot around the election or before the election and then peak out sometime there. And then they just probably won't get talked about too much after that. So that would be something that
it's a casino. You shouldn't be buying something like a Bowden to hold for like a year for the whole cycle. You should be like these risky meme coins. They're better to trade, and you can make insane amounts of money.
We trust it. Now tell us about your theory on the macro cycle now. Altcoin season, what's going on with alts long term? When do you think it's going to end?
So on total 3, if you go into the daily, you can see we're breaking the flag. This is much shorter term, obviously. Alts are also within a range, similar to how I pointed out on render. You have total 3. And look, you can't chart this in terms of PA because I don't think buyers and sellers are looking at it as, strictly as they would for an individual coin. But generally speaking, just for my bearing on the market, I do like to look at total 3 like this. If you go into the weekly chart, that is actually quite a key level, the $780 billion level, where look, if we start breaking above that, that's bull market mania, and that's probably going to take us to all-time highs, which is 1 trillion on the altcoin index and above. So that's definitely something that I'm looking at in terms of like a signal for me to go super risk on. That's what I'm looking at on alts. Here's the thing about alts. They can be valued stupidly high and they can go past your wildest expectations in a bull. They can also draw down past your wildest expectations in a bear. When the music's playing, you got to dance when it comes to this altcoin market. How long the music will play, because it hasn't even really fully kicked into gear yet. That's the question. I think if you ask me based on my analysis, I don't have the charts to back this up, but based on previous cycle performance, and I think you maybe share this view. Maybe I'm slightly earlier than you, but I'm seeing a lot of catalysts in Q3, Q4. Obviously, the ETH ETF's probably going to come. Like by the time they watch this video, maybe you will have more clarity on that. But it looks like it's coming earlier than expected, which is great for the market. You have other catalysts like the election, especially if Trump wins. Love him, hate him. I think the market reacts a lot better to that than a Biden win. And then you also have some other catalysts in the market, like the FTX creditors actually receive their money, and a lot of these people are going to reinvest that money back into the market. That was sold during this period here in 2023 at the lows, which they're pissed off about. They're going to get their cash now, and a lot of them are crypto degens that maybe they won't invest all of it because they're burnt and scarred, but a lot of them will reinvest some, and that's billions of dollars we're talking about. So that is a narrative, because narratives are more powerful than the actual effect in crypto, and we know that. So that's a narrative.
We don't know for sure if that's what they're going to do. It's speculation that they're going to sell, but
that's what's going to be the hype.
We can definitely see it in YouTube titles. That would come about.
Yes,
the money's getting released, billions coming into the market, guys. Warnings.
How would you title that? $5 billion FTX pump begins now. 10 days left. Fellow YouTubers out there, that'll get you the views, I think, later in the year.
I'm waiting to see it on your channel. Maybe I'll test it for myself.
I'm looking at Q3, Q4, but I also think that could extend into Q1. In bull market terms, like the peaks typically don't happen until later in 2025, but I do view this cycle as slightly left leaning personally. So my targets are a little bit more conservative on the duration side, looking more towards a Q1 2025 peak. just based on my data. But you can also make the argument for an extended cycle later into 2025. You're more of an expert than me on the macro front, though, Jason. So maybe you can, lend your opinions on that on when you come onto my channel, which will probably be the day after this.
I need your top 5 so that we can absolutely destroy them or fall in love with them. I'm just going to look at them from.
Let's go one from each sector. That's the easiest way to do this. Okay. So let's start with AI because we discussed it a lot.
I'm bringing up my chart and we're just going to look at them alt versus BTC pair.
Look at render. People are probably going to think I have a massive render bag. I really don't. I'm in a trade, but it's just so synonymous with AI that it's so like if you want to track AI, tracking render is the way to go.
Render BTC looks very good. I've talked about it on the channel a fair bit. It's hit all-time highs and we're just looking at the alt versus the BTC pair. So it's gaining a lot of strength versus Bitcoin, which means that it's doing much better against Bitcoin in a Bitcoin season. So yes, render I think looks great. What's second?
Chart the memes because I think they actually outperform.
Let's have a look at WIF because Pepe is very, very strong. WIF
had the drawdown.
Doesn't necessarily have as much data. It's
Maybe you
still below
the daily for
the major 50%. I wanted to put the entire frame here, but it's still putting in a higher low from that April bottom. So that's the saving grace at the moment. I think if it was to break down from like 3,000 Satoshis, probably going to see a little bit of problems. Could be a bit weaker.
It's interesting. It is looking weak. So I view WIF as like a Solana beta. Like when Solana runs hard, WIF has actually outperformed. Pepe is more of like an ETH beta. That's why it's running right now. So let's see. I want to see that downtrend reversed. Pepe is certainly the stronger one, but I still like WIF from a DCA point of view. And I think at some point in the cycle, it outperforms. I don't know how much you know about Twitter culture, Jason. I know you are on Twitter, but Ansem is like the cultural leader this cycle for whatever reason, and he is pushing WIF relentlessly. So I can't see that narrative going away with such firepower behind it.
Give us your third one.
I really like Ton. It's highly valued. I like Ton and Nia as infrastructure plays. Ton and Nia are good, but they're high cap. So for me, this is more of like a high conviction spot play.
I was very interested in Ton because it was still showing strength against BTC. It's had a double top hit and now it's under the 50% again. And it's still not above its previous all-time high, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it does look like it needs a fair bit of time to cool off now.
I want that.
Under the 50% and hit that. Yeah, it might move at a different time to the rest of the market. So you might see some of your portfolio going up and then you think, why isn't Ton going up? But it's not weak at this stage. It's not weak like some of the other crap that's down here in my weak list. Like one I pick on all the time is XRP.
Fuck.
Because you're holding some, are you?
No, I don't hold it. I actually actively shit on XRP and ADA. So
yeah, I mean, it's just down, down, down. Then people get excited. It's like, oh, you said XRP was going to dump. And then all of a sudden it does like 1.8% one day. And then it basically just keeps going down and down and down. So yeah, XRP is an easy one to crap on.
Also look at Nia. Look at Nia because Nia's interesting. It's an L1 play, but it's also an AI bet as well.
It came up because it's an old crypto from 2021. Yeah. It had a massive peak there in January 2022 and April 2022 when the market was all dumping. And now it's seen a bottom and it's still showing strength. Higher lows, continuing to try and break
I like this Bitcoin
highs.
Thing because if you actually, can you give me some insight on this? Because I don't chart versus Bitcoin a lot. I'm mostly USD charting. Nia on the USD chart is starting to like now creep back up. It's not quite there, but it's maybe 1/3 of its all-time high. So it still has room to run. What do you put more weight on, the Bitcoin chart or the USD chart? Because when I look at the Bitcoin chart, there's a lot of room and that makes me bullish. Like, fuck, I still have time to stack up and render. But when I look at the USD chart, it's like, it's run a lot. Should I go for the lower cap?
No, I like to see them getting closer. I would rather them being traded around their highs because there is less resistance. Whereas now for Nia versus BTC, there's still more resistance. You've got the 50% resistance here. You've got these tops. So you're going to be resistance there. You potentially have the smaller resistance at this lower swing top. And then you've got the all-time high resistance. So Nia has a lot of work to do. If this is the last leg of the bull market, it has a lot of work to do to get up to those prices. Whereas something like Render, it's done all the work and now it just has to ride. Now it can just float up in the sky.
How do you weight USD versus Bitcoin pairs though? Because like the USD
the way I
run
use
a lot
them,
higher.
The way I use them is which one is it going to be easier to pour gas on? And the gas is going to go on to something like Render. Just looking at probabilities, obviously no guarantees, but just looking at probabilities, the gas is going to go on to Render a lot easier than it is to Nia. Nia is going to require a lot of gas compared to Render.
What do you think about this counter argument though? a lot of these coins throughout the bear had heavy dilution if you look at the vesting schedules on things like NEAR. So obviously they're going to look weak versus Bitcoin because they've been pouring fresh tokens into the market. But you can make an argument, and this isn't exclusive to NEAR, it is for other coins as well, that now a lot of that sell pressure's out, and there is this narrative towards like fully diluted coins that there's less suppressatory pressure on them, so they can like outperform. And obviously they're going to look bad versus Bitcoin because they've been leaking in terms of supply. That's a counter argument maybe to the TA angle.
Yeah, well, it still goes hand in hand with the TA. So the counter argument is that's what's happening, which is what has led to them being down for so long past bottoms of other altcoins. You know, other altcoins like Solana, it made bottoms in 2022, whereas NEAR only just finally made its bottom in October 2023 when the rest of the market had already put in higher lows and was running. So it's lagging at this point. Doesn't mean it couldn't get going, but it has a lot of work to do, I'd say, in this region here between the 50% and that previous high. So if it can get out of that relatively quickly, well, then the gas is going to be pretty easy at this stage. That's just looking at the chart and probabilities. Yeah, so far, I think it looks all right. Like if you had to pick something from the previous cycle that was looking strong, NEAR is definitely one of those.
Can you look at Phantom? Because Phantom has the Sonic upgrade coming soon, which is actually going to be one of the fastest, according to their testnet, networks in crypto. And I know they've got a rebrand, so the FTM token will be redeemable for S. It's gaining traction. There's been airdrops teased. I'm interested.
FTM.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just not going anywhere. So it's still below those highs. It's still below the 50% level. And it just got rejected at a shorter term 50% level.
Could it also excite someone because it's early?
It depends on the cycle, right? If this cycle only has 9 months, 12 months to go, then it's got to do all that work in a short period of time. But if there's more time and we go for 2 years, then it could work its way through all of the overhead resistance. And then you finally get that day where FTM is out in the open and it's just ready to pump real hard.
Many alts will never ever hit their Bitcoin highs again, and the reason for that is the amount of dilution now has been a popular topic on Twitter this week is crazy. So many new launches coming because so much funding was injected in 2022 and 2021 towards the end of the bull and during the bull that it's very hard for some of these older cycle coins because back then there weren't as many tokens. Now I think there's like triple the amount of tokens, and by the end of this bull run, there's probably going to be 10x the amount of tokens. So it makes it a lot. There's more dilution. So you might see total 3 in the clear because it's trillions of dollars now because there's more alts, but these individual alts, they aren't moving versus Bitcoin because Bitcoin's gone up to 100K. But these alts haven't pumped proportionally because there's just more altcoins in the market. Yeah,
that's a valid argument. It's just a matter of what gains are you looking for. So if we look at Phantom again, there is still the possibility to go up to this this high again. There's 30%. Then the next resistance level, there's 95%. The next level, 150, 200, and then the all-time high, 400. So there's still all that possibility. It all comes down to time as well. Like how much time is left in this cycle? If it's only made it back to here and it's the end of the cycle, you have Buckley's chance of it getting to that previous top. That's a pretty big issue. And when it comes to that all-time high as well, yeah, sure, a lot of these older coins probably aren't going to reach their all-time high against their Bitcoin value because of the dilution and because of the gain on BTC. Therefore, why don't you go with something that is showing strength against BTC?
Two more coins I want you to show, and then we'll wrap this up because we could talk forever. Ondo and Link.
If I don't know anything about this, you can see how garbage it is right now.
Wow.
I know there's a lot of talk about Link. I've seen people talk about it quite often at length on X.
Fundamentally, it's very strong. So it's interesting the technicals are saying something different because it is strong fundamentally, I must say.
I mean, it's not doing anything, you know? It doesn't mean it can't. It might just be a little bit more time until it's ready to go.
But it's funny because price-wise, it's up a 3x from the bottom. So this is the USD versus Bitcoin, argument.
Yeah, but from the bottom, Bitcoin's 5x up. Or 4x. Bitcoin's done better. And that chart shows that Bitcoin is a better investment than Link to date.
Yeah. I mean, basically your goal as an investor, to outperform Bitcoin. Because if you're not outperforming Bitcoin, that's very, very, very bad RR. Because you could have just been sitting in Bitcoin and chilling because alts come with a lot of stress and risk. But if you're taking on all that risk for the same upside, or actually sometimes less upside, that's a suboptimal investment decision. So yeah, I do agree with you there.
Totally. And this little arrow I've got here, ideally above here at this stage. All I was saying there is I'd want to see it at least above those previous tops. And it's also a 50% level. So above like 40, I'm calling that 44,000 Satoshis because 0.0004, there's 8 decimal places. Anyway, above that level would allow it to breathe free when the cycle comes around, when there's more energy in the market, and it's going to be able to pump higher, faster, harder, all that sort of thing. But for now, it's basically trading at the lows, while the strong stuff that you've shown me is trading around its highs. Like even Near is doing better than this. So it's not doing too well. It hasn't made it back to my list.
If you did chart Ondo, that it would be very bullish, but the problem is it was released
not much data.
Not that long ago. But you can see, but there's just not enough data, right? So it's definitely disproportionate. But this is one that's been strong and probably would have been strong if it had launched.
Pyth was another one that's an oracle, right? But in the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah.
So Pyth continued down. It was something that I had, but I dumped it because, well, it broke down from its previous accumulation around these levels here at 1,000 to 1,200 Satoshis, and just continued down. I think it had a token release, so it's not to say that the project's bad.
Gonna tell you something, because I got flamed for this a couple of weeks ago. It's Pyth. I got flamed for saying I was just like you. I said Pyth, and I was like, it's Pyth. So I don't know who's right or who's wrong, but anyway.
It's Pyth. For us, it's Pyth. They can call it whatever the hell they want.
For the Aussies, it's Pyth.
Yeah, it's Pyth, exactly. It's the same thing when I had the Evergrande.
Python.
Yeah. That's it's Evergrande.
What do they call Evergrande?
I say Evergrande. You order a grande, it's Evergrande. I'll throw in one more for you that's from the old school that's kind of hanging around. It's like a bad smell. It's Rune. It's still doing okay, but it's not back above those tops. But more on that in another video. I reckon we've covered a lot here.
I think Rune will do well because it's reflexive. In a bull run, coins like Rune typically outperform because the APRs get juiced, and this is also in line with the amount of swapping that's happening through the platform. And as the APRs get juiced, there's more incentive to stake, and then the TVL increases. So, but it's like quite a highly leveraged bet on the market, because in a bear market, it also ravels and unravels, and that's why, as you just saw, the price perform so badly in the bear. So, but in peak conditions, it's a good one to hold for like the 3 months of euphoria when you can get that 4 or 5x. Gotcha.
Similar to the Stacks token. I don't know exactly what it does, but it seems to do very well when Bitcoin's going up and does very bad.
It's a beta. Another one is ENA. I want to show you ENA. It's just one last coin that's very similar to Rune. This basically benefits from high funding rates. It has a bit of a contentious mechanism because of the reflexivity. People have compared it to Luna. I think those comparisons are false. There are some concerns, valid concerns, but there's big players behind it, and it could, in peak bull, this also could rip. But it's one of these reflexive plays again. So it's like for people that want to use leverage but don't want to actually use leverage and pay funding, these Athena, Rune, memecoin type plays are like quite nice leverage bets on the market. Just being able to buy spot. Basically, that's
the thing I hate about most of these, to hold them long. I wouldn't hold any of this stuff long term. I hope no one wants to.
Dilution, right?
You can see that. Look at the market cap. It's 1/10 of the total of the FTD. Like
a
lot of these things, it's the same tokenomics. 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, and eventually in 12 months they all just get dumped on the market.
Look at the tokenomics, because often there's a 1-year cliff. And if you think there's a bull run in the next 12 months and there's no unlocks, they can actually run ridiculously high because they're so low float. Conversely, as soon as those unlocks start to happen, like DYDX, the token gets smacked. So you've also got to time it with where you think the market's going and where the unlocks are. And the only way to do that's by looking at cryptorank.io. It's a great website for this. Token unlocks calendar, or looking at their white paper individually. That would be a tip before you invest in any of these newer coins.
I've looked at quite a few on that crypto ranking website you've talked about.
It's great.
And they are coming up sort of end of 24, early 25.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's the end of the cycle, but a lot of our own analysis sort of lines up with that timing. And if that is token unlocks, well, it's probably going to crap all over the market.
Well, that's what happened. That is exactly what happened in 2022. That's the unlocks had started in the back half of 2022, and that's why the bleed was so aggressive. And then FTX happened, obviously.
Well, the ICO mania happened again. That was the same sort of thing in 2017, 2018. Everyone started getting all these coins, and it was just absolute garbage.
We only have, if you're telling me, and this is something we might discuss on my channel, you're telling me we only have 6 to 7 months. This makes me even more panicked. I'm already panicked.
All right, we're going to talk on your channel. I had one last thing I wanted to ask you. Gaming, the hype, the narrative, Everyone talks about it on X. Everyone's saying it's going to be the big thing, or at least the bigger X accounts. Twitter, that is, for us old people. I'm not seeing it in the charts.
Yeah, so I'll tell you my strategy with gaming. I'll be frank with you. The gaming's one of my major focuses right now. What the gaming market is waiting for is that aha moment that gaming and Web3 can actually work. To this date, we have not seen it. We've seen Ponzi's like Axie and Pegaxie and, you know, these gamified things like Steppen, which have no longevity. What I want to see is a closed economy actually work with Web3 in respect to the economics behind it. And I think there are a few very good examples coming. So we're waiting for that moment. When that moment comes, gaming can perform well. And it's one of these things that it may only pump once a cycle, but when it pumps, it'll rip. So the bet I'm taking is accumulating slowly, and hopefully over the next few months, hopefully at some point we do see that gaming run, and then it's just GG's from there. If
it doesn't happen, all your gaming stuff turns to crap, which is why it's not showing up in the chart, which is essentially why the charts are all down and nothing is well, not nothing, but the majority of it's not necessarily moving for gaming. So if you want to take that risk that it is going to pump and pump real hard, maybe, then that's what you do. If you want to follow the chart and wait for confirmation, then personally, it's not something that I'm really excited about because I don't see it in the charts. Thanks very much, mate. Let's do a video over on your channel next. We're going to get into some more of the macro stuff and then dive into the some of the fears of what happens at the end of a cycle, whether that's crypto, real estate, the stock markets, what to do with the assets that you've accumulated. That was the word I was looking for. So if you enjoyed this chat that I've had with Miles, smash up the likes, 3,000 likes. I'm throwing a number out there. Let's do it. I'll see you guys over on the Miles' channel and at the next video here. Thanks again, mate. All your links are in the video description.
See you later, guys.